Why do we need to know somebody's net worth? I go to parties and that's the first thing I ask people. What's your net worth?
Well, just like companies keep cash flow statements, they also keep balance sheets as well, right? We want to know what assets we have and what liabilities so that we can establish a net worth for a company. Why wouldn't that apply on a personal level as well? And it absolutely does. So we need to take inventory, and on this green sheet right here is just a short list so that you can compile your assets and your liabilities in simple addition and subtraction. It's going to give you your net worth statement, and that'll give you an idea. And this is also going to have bearing on your investment strategies later on when you do implement the actual financial plan. The amount of, or your total net worth does have a bearing on the way that you invest your assets going forward.
Do people sometimes feel poor, but their net worth statement shows that they're...
Yeah, absolutely. The wealth effect is definitely one of those motivators when, and this can be illustrated when we had the housing boom and people saw their net worth go up because they thought their house was worth X amount. And at that point, that wealth effect came in and they spent more too, right? And so people on the other side can feel that they're poor, however, their net worth can be very positive. And in that case, it's good news because we can tell them that they're much closer to their goals than they thought they were.
Yeah, it's just so important. Once a year, put a net worth statement together. Do you guys work with clients putting a net worth statement together?
Absolutely. This is part of the financial planning process. All these things are part of the package that we put together for our clients because it sets the groundwork, really. And so before we implement the actual financial plan, which we're going to get into next week, we need to know these basic levels of information.
Yeah, you can't advise people without literally knowing this simple amount of information of you. The net worth, when I was working at the university, I sit down with some of the professors and we say, let's first put together a net worth statement on a yellow sheet of paper, and they were shocked at the dollar level. And so if you feel like, for instance, we went through 2008, a market crash on our financials, well, you need to see it, the total picture as to how much did your net worth actually decrease. So you can't just pick one little part out and say, gosh, I'm doing lousy, my investments are doing poor, because, different parts may work better than others, and you're looking at the total picture.
Absolutely. A holistic approach is what we call it. It's not necessarily about just the portfolio or one piece of the portfolio. It's about your total net worth and what...
Is this, how long on the average does it take you and David to put this thing together for a client?
Well, a lot of that depends upon the client. It depends. We have clients with absolutely different levels of assets and also different levels of organization. So it's a matter of being able to pull all these things together.
It'll take sometimes, not kidding, almost 2 years just to get this kind of information out of someone and work with them. And here you're trying to do things that are in their best interest, and yet they want you to invest their money, and it puts the planner in a very difficult situation, because how can they do any kind of investing without knowing what your goals are, what your net worth is, and what kind of cash flow you have? You can't really make an investment. And the most common question that I get out of these sessions is, I've got $100,000. What do you suggest I do? I don't know.
Give it to me.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what your goals are. I don't know what your net worth is. I don't know what your cash flow is like. I don't, are you planning on using this in 5 years? Are you planning on doing this in 10 years? Does a 90-year-old spend the same amount as a newly retired 65-year-old?
Probably not.
No. So there's different cash flow requirements there. This is just literally the basics that we're doing today. And does anybody have any questions on putting together a net worth or a cash flow statement?
How do you charge for this fact-finding activity?
Very good question. We are a fee only, like we said, and really that compensation would come from the client. We have, and really this is going to depend upon the complexity of the case. It depends upon how many things are out there and how many different inputs we're actually going to need to gather and put into play. And we talk about that with each one of the clients. Before we do any work with any client, we have a financial advisory agreement. And what that does is it puts forth the conditions under which we're going to be working with the client and our responsibilities as well as the client's responsibilities and what fees are going to be paid for them.
Can I come up to you?
Yes.
Yeah, if I come up to you, I'm going to give you a little better idea right now.
Yeah.
I've got $1 million estate, and the only thing I want you guys to do is put a financial plan together for me. I do not want you to invest a dime for me. I just want an investment plan. What would be your charges? I have a brokerage account. I have an apartment that has rental income, and I have a house.
Okay. Our hourly fee is $150, and let's assume that it takes 10 hours to compile the goals, the net worth, the cash flow, recommendations going forward, any assumptions that have to be made about that particular client. A 10-hour package would, for example, be $1,500.
So that gives you an idea. Is that better?
Is that a 60-minute hour?
I'm sorry?
Is that a 60-minute hour?
Yes.
Good question.
Would be 1,500 to come up with what? Not. You would have to have that from the client in order to come up with a financial plan, right? Or
Correct.
in other words, it would be a plan to accomplish his goals.
Yes. And really, that's kind of our setting off point where we could actually come up with the recommendations that we need to go ahead and implement that plan.
Okay, and then part of that plan is reviewing insurance, reviewing your tax bracket, etc. Yes?
According to this UAD, as far as hourly rates go, they say that the rate is $150 for David, but then it's $230 for someone, Leanne Chang.
Yes, Leanne Chang.
Is that all right?
Well, she's a forensic accountant, and she does higher-end work along that end in preparing tax returns and things like that. So.
Forensic accounting is very helpful if you have to go back a number of years to figure out what happened in a particular case. I use forensic accounting a lot when I take over a trust. I need to find out, how much money was been taken, and so we require forensic accounting, and that's a completely different field again than normal accounting.
She was her own CFP and IRA and had like $500 million under management 15, 20 years ago, and she got ill and lost most all of her clients, and she just asked if she could bring her clients that she had remaining to me, and we made an agreement, and that's why she's with me.
Yeah, good question. And again, it means the ADV form requires that full disclosure. So, you discover anything and that it should be all there on the ADV form. Kirk, David, thank you so much. Okay, then next week what we'll get into is what?
Asset allocation.
Asset allocation. And we'll get into how actually we do the investments. So it'll be much more fun. We don't have to go through the introduction part. Everybody wants the investment part. So we'll see you all next week. They're going to be around here for a little bit if you have a question, and I'll answer your question right afterwards. But we're cutting it right now. See you next week.